Hello, 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 and welcome to yet another episode of the Conversation Capital with myself, Ursula Mariani, as your host. Bonga, how are you?
I'm good, sis. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. I'm trying to give your name variations and
Hey,
things.
both into pressure.
If I get the pressure. Given, are you mic'd up? Are you with us?
No,
you're not with us. So, it being Women's Month, we thought we would discuss all things to do with, women that are going into spaces that are ideally dominated or labeled as a men's space. And when the idea for the topic came up, I couldn't help but think of a very good friend of mine, Buiteko Khanyane. Hi, ma'am. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Welcome to the TCC couch. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming through. So, friend, you're in the manufacturing space.
I am.
Imagine
I am
that,
indeed.
the founder and owner of Distinguished Living.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's start with I know you. People don't know you. Who are you?
So I am Buiteko Khanyane, born and bred in Johannesburg, and I have an interior design and furniture manufacturing company. My background was actually corporate. So I come from a corporate South Africa background, and so many people would look at me like, what a pivot. But honestly, it was like the best decision to do for me because I realized that my creative side is slightly stronger than my more corporate side. So I think I'm definitely living and fulfilling a purpose that was always, bestowed upon me, I think.
So you're not mentioning something, but once again, because I know you, I can bring this up. I remember when we were in undergrad.
Yeah.
And you were studying, we were all doing like degrees at university.
Yeah.
And then she went on to do I think it was a short course or another degree with Design South Africa.
Yes.
So you were doubling up. So you've always had that huge interest. And she was doing like a BCom at Tux. And then she's like, this element of design, interior design is,
I think I always describe it as, I don't know if you guys remember that Chicken Licken advert with the monkey that kept growing every time the guy wasn't having chicken licken.
Yes.
It was like that. It was like when I didn't fulfill this more creative side that was like very, I think, house focused, interior focused.
Yes.
I felt like there was something always that was just heavy on me that was like, you're missing this. This is something you love. Like, my mind would always stray towards that side, no matter how in it I am with the strategies. I mean, I'm in strategy, but no matter how in it I am with the project, which I love, they'd always be like, and when I go and I like swipe on Pinterest, it's always just beautiful spaces and wallpapers and furniture and just these luxuriously beautiful places that I just cannot get rid of. Yeah.
So let's chat about that. So where does somebody's like, oh, I've got the craving.
Yeah.
I've got the monkey.
Yeah.
Where did you start? Where you're like, okay, I've already mentioned where you started.
Yeah,
For me, seeing it was
Absolutely.
definitely taking that course with, I think it's called Design South Africa.
Yes, Design South Africa.
Yes.
Interestingly enough, I actually never finished that course.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. I didn't finish it because there was a condition with my parents that if it was starting to feed into my, degree and take a lot of my time, cut it immediately. Like, we allow you to do it, but if it's going to take up your time, leave it. So I didn't finish the course, and I did it in second year. I proceeded to then do what I actually started, which was BCom Business Management. And for a while, I think I was just kind of dabbling in, interior, just from a interest perspective, from a passion perspective, nothing concrete, just looking at the things. Then in my first year of working at PwC as a consultant, I remember we used to work long hours. I mean, I'm talking these long days, the next day you're up there early in the morning. And I remember waking up, and I swear it was God, because I remember waking up this one day just so grudged about the job that I prayed for, by the way.
Yeah.
I prayed to get into, and just so tired of not doing interior design. And that morning, I'm not even talking when, I started my Instagram page called Distinguished Living. Distinguished Living had no content. I had no projects to show. I was just like, I'm going to do this. Today's the day. We'll find a way to grow this thing. And immediately started like posting all of these things that I liked from Pinterest, like all of these beautiful pieces and places that I liked, and commenting on what I had learned in the second year, just the little bits about harmony, about balance, about lines, about everything that I'd learned from this course that, by the way, I didn't finish, but I still had the know-how. And after some time, I think, of posting other people's work, but really speaking about it in depth, I got my first client to do a whole house that first of all, I was extremely nervous about, but you wouldn't have said, because when I walked into that house, I owned the conversation so much, throwing in all of these terminologies that I'd learned. But my heart was beating so fast because I was like, can they tell? Can they tell that I don't know what I'm doing? That this is my first project?
You know, when you walked in, you spoke about how starting with what you have, right?
Absolutely.
Off camera. What I like about, she said it loosely, like I was using other people's work, but it's starting with what you have. She was like, I was analyzing these spaces.
Yeah.
So I'm taking this work. I don't have work to show you, but I can show my skills in that I can analyze a picture, tell you about all these elements of deco within this particular picture.
Absolutely.
So starting where you are with what you have.
Very important. I think it's extremely important. And I think a lot of people almost want to have this grand experience and grand story as to how you started your business or how you started this thing. And sometimes it's actually just a really simple thing. It literally just started like that, me posting other people's things. And that's how I got my first client.
Sure. And now clients later, you know, here you're sitting and now you walk into a room, not posing confident, but genuinely confident in your ability and skill to do those things.
But still very much like humbled to the experience, right? That there was a time I prayed about this and it's actually happening. And sometimes every time my projects get bigger or every time I'm you know, tasked to do something that I've never done before, I quickly come back to this humble space that, oh my goodness, this is almost like the first time, like a learning experience again. So, you know, I find that I actually enjoy being in almost like a space where I don't always know what I'm doing, but I know enough to be able to say we can do it, but, you know, more enough to also say that I'm going to go learn a little bit more about what you're expecting from us.
And who are we if we aren't learning all the time?
Absolutely.
There'll never be a time where we know everything.
No, definitely.
You know?
Yeah.
And so speaking of that, I mean, now you're stepping closer into like the you know, industry of like, or the conversation around imposter syndrome and things like that. Have you ever allowed it to get the better of you?
I think so. So I'm self-taught. You know, I mentioned to you that I didn't finish that course. And so everything I've done has been to teach myself how to be better in this space that I didn't have the capacity to do as a full-time thing. Like most interior designers go to school for it, etc. So they learn for 3 years how to do drawings, how to do, you know, whatever it is that they're doing. I went for 3 years on how to do business, and that is my strong point. But the interior side, I have to always upskill myself. And so now I'm in a better space because I've taken the time to learn how to do better drawings, how to do better renders. But before, I would literally like become extremely self-conscious about what we're producing from a drawing and a render space, because I wasn't very confident in whether or not my skills of drawing architecturally are to the par and level of you know, those people who studied for 3 years. And I think that was always just my weakest point, where this thing that was something that was taught for 3 years for other people, I had to learn on the fly. So there's still sometimes elements of me being able to be like, oh.
You know what? I absolutely relate to this. I don't know if I'm on my 9th or 10th year, 2014. I'm on my 9th year being a voiceover artist.
Yeah.
But because I studied medical science, it does not change. Sometimes when I step into a booth and let's say you'll find that it's 2 voiceover artists and the other one is an actress.
Yes.
I creep into the as if I haven't been doing this for almost 10 years. You know what I mean? And so as you're saying this, I completely, and people will be like, you're so qualified. In what?
Exactly.
I'm qualified in the lab, you know, and you know, we take away from like experience, but there's so many learning curves that you need to go through when it's an industry that you're stepping into, that you're self-taught. 100%. And I always say this thing about, people always say, degrees really don't help you learn a lot of the work on the job. I agree with this.
Yeah.
But degrees give you a certain level of, I belong here.
100%.
I should be here.
100%.
And if only we can break free from that. Because I really do believe there are people from different demographics that don't feel that way. You get what I'm saying? I remember I was chatting to a white man who was a manager, was safety and security. And I was really curious to hear what safety thing. This person had matric. I couldn't believe, but they had done like the short course as they got the job. You know?
Yeah.
But this person had, and I couldn't believe it. And it reminded me that some people step into these spaces, right? And they're just like, I'm doing this.
100%.
You know, I'm doing this and I'm going to learn on the job. People say you learn on the job anyway. And I'm going head first. you know, now that we're like segueing into the whole demographic chat and things like that, you are a woman, a Black woman in manufacturing.
Yep.
I remember I went to your stall at Decorex.
Yes.
And I didn't know Unala Fair me.
Hey,
Unala
because
factory.
it was still in its very infant days
Yes.
back then, actually. We had just officially moved in and hired staff and everything.
Yes.
It's a project that had been on my heart for almost the whole of, I would say, end of 2021, whole of 2022. I'd been thinking about expanding our business towards manufacturing because I felt like I enjoy the project space, but I feel like the value for me and what I can offer is more in the manufacturing space, where we are creating pieces that are, I think, sustainable. Yes, you do that in the project space, but I would be hiring other contractors to do that for me. If we're doing a kitchen, I'm hiring another contractor. If we're doing the tiling, it's another contractor. This was now almost like my visions coming to life in a different format. So we were still new in the game, had just literally like solidified our, I would say, our space at the factory in August. We had it since December 2022, but because, you know, I think I underestimated how much goes into starting a factory. Because I'd never done it. And I'd also never interacted that much with people who do have factories. You'd find that this space, there isn't a lot of interaction. Like, I have friends and people that I can call on, but I didn't know how hectic it actually is. So I came in there, you know, wide-eyed, bushy-tailed, with this big dream. And I think a part of me is very happy that I didn't have other people's war stories to lean on because I just and I realized as we were now getting into this is actually pretty hectic. Like, I need to, first of all, we need to get the equipment, which we thankfully did. But the hardest part is finding the staff. My goodness. Like, I never realized how hectic it would be. Guys, there's no LinkedIn, hey? In manufacturing.
Yes.
There's no LinkedIn where you just call on people and say, hi, I'm looking for a manufacturer. No. You have to be on the ground.
Yes.
And I realized very quickly in the game that it's hard to find quality people. And it's hard to almost create those loyal relationships.
Yes.
So I think that was like a big learning curve for me. And that's where I started seeing that I'm not in the corporate space anymore. That my gender actually does weigh for something. That I am a little bit on the back foot, you know.
What do you mean? Like, when they building a piece of furniture, do you sometimes think they don't take you seriously because of Msadi, or they've learned that you're the boss lady, or, you know, but it started, you know,
100%.
with the learning process,
So, I mean, most of the time you're interacting in a very male-dominated space. These guys have years of experience, and it's in kapambiri, like they've taught themselves. So when you come into that space, you're coming in as a visitor, as a guest. You need to, first of all, really respect their craft because it's not what you do. But at the same time, you need to also assert yourself as somebody who's come with a proposition to say, I would like to employ you. So from the get-go, you need to be establishing that mutually beneficial relationship, which is that I'm offering you employment, which you will be paid for, but you are offering me your craft. And so the minute they feel like that, or they realize that you might actually not be as learned in the space, and they see you as this young person, you're mutually beneficial relationship is lost. 100%.
You need me more than I need
Exactly.
you.
And that was one of my first employees, a brilliant guy, amazing. He's so good at his craft, upholsterer. He was maybe a couple of years older than me, so you can say we were age mates. And he came into the space from the get-go, actually, I think, thinking that I have more to offer than this girl has to offer. And so the minute our mutually beneficial relationship broke, which is when he decided that he was going to quit on a Saturday evening and tell me that he's not coming anymore because I didn't realize how much he brings to the table and I need to increase his salary. That's when I realized, oh, Houston, we have a problem. Because I need him.
Yes.
I need him. Like, I need this guy. And he said, she needs me more than I need her because I've got all of these offers. And because I was so new in the game, very inexperienced, still learning from them, I gave in to paying him extra. And guys, from the day I did that, They started the problems. He was now almost running the factory. He was the boss. And I was the person that he would tell that I think is better that we do this. We would clash. Like, I quickly realized I need to learn this thing because clearly I'm in a different game here. I'm not in a game where people are willing to teach me. No, I need to learn so that when we have these conversations, I have a lot to bring to the table to say, no, I don't agree. And this is why I don't agree.
And I've been doing this for a while.
100%. And so I know what I'm talking about. And so I realized there that no, this space really is a man's space. And sometimes you get seen as the young lady who just...
Even as the employee, somebody feels that they can dominate your space. You know, I've called you in as an employee.
Absolutely.
And you're here to be like, actually...
No.
This lady.
A lot of the time. And can I tell you, that was like one of my biggest experiences and lessons, because that guy went on to start moonlighting using some of our material. And because I was still like running the business here and there, whatever, I think there was definitely an element of way too much trust being put on him.
Yeah.
Because he was actually quite experienced.
Yeah.
And so he took that trust and said, I'm going to run with it and I'm going to do more. So he was now doing his own jobs. And, you know, I then realized very quickly that I need to buck up. Like, you need to buck up and be this, not forceful, but assertive. Stand your ground. Be the person who is learned in your space. Because this is not the space where you can learn on the job. Unfortunately, you are the boss. And sometimes the boss doesn't have that luxury to say, I'm learning from my guys, even though I'm the one bringing in the projects. And so we had to then have this big conversation after I'd gotten just tired of this thing to say, listen here, everybody has a role. If I don't bring in projects, you don't have the work.
Yeah.
And if you don't do the work, we don't have the projects, guys.
So let's
work in a mutually beneficial relationship that everybody here has a role to play, regardless of their gender or what they're strong at. Everybody is strong at something here and has something of value to bring to the table. And gender does not play a part, and it should not play a part. Because at the end of the day, if you think you can do this better, then go and look for the clients then.
Yes. And let the clients come to 100%. You then. They come to Distinguished Living for a reason.
Absolutely. So it took some time, but we finally got there. And now I think I'm blessed to have, you know, a staff component of 6 people. One of them is a lady, but the space is extremely neutral. Everybody is bringing something to the table. That guy left. I fired him because it was a drama, but there were cops on the scene.
Yes, I was about to say, isn't this the cop story, friend?
Yes, there were cops on the scene because he promised to do some lady's work outside of the, the business. Oh,
it was the same gent the whole time?
Same gent the whole time.
No, he had to go.
No, he had to go because I was also now starting to feel very uncomfortable in my own company where I almost had to become this person who I'm not. I had to like step into this masculine role. And I remember telling my partner about how I feel like sometimes I have to be this masculine person to make my voice be heard. And it's because there was no balance. There was no mutual respect on each side. And so I had to now become the strong person. I mean, even now I feel like I tend to do that a lot, where I lean towards even my physical strength. Guys, I'm strong, eh? Honestly, like physically, I'm just a lot more hands-on. I can do it. No, Cham, I can't because they break. Because everything. Honestly, I'm telling you, I've become this very strong, more masculine person that sometimes it even is difficult to cut or draw the line in your own personal space.
Yes.
Where you need to now remember to be a woman still.
And I know that many people listening can relate. Any woman in business, for me, I think even as you work as an employee, it's quite hectic. But if you're a woman in business, you can definitely relate to either the people that you've employed, and you'll find that somebody is a plumber. Not to look down upon their craft. I run a commune, and sometimes I just know that my dad needs to go 100%. And speak to this plumber. Because if it's me, and sometimes it's even with the clients that you're serving, where it's like, I didn't realize it was a woman. You can see the switch.
Yeah.
You can see the switch versus when, it's a poster that is getting clients to the thing, and versus when it's now you.
Absolutely.
And so I want to ask about being in the industry specifically of interior decor on the client. Now you've spoken about the employee
Yeah.
struggle that you
Yeah.
have on a client level. You know, do you sometimes wish there was a man that you had a man face? Like I call my dad, you know, my dad is the man face of my business. You know what I mean? Like when I need a man to sort of step in and you know, just be the image that I need.
Yeah.
Do you feel that you need that, or do you think that the industry is more accepting of like feminine energy?
I don't feel like we need a man as a man face, mainly because just kenalingani in that way. But I would say that I have lost maybe 1 or 2 leads because the voice on the other side of the phone was slightly too high pitched. So I remember, so a lot of the time, I mean, I'm on the road. So I'll go into the factory in the morning, midday, and afternoon, because of depending on my day. And this particular time, there was a gent who came in and interacted with one of my guys. And so they gave me his number, and I called him, and he immediately said, okay, great. Anyway, so I was calling because I wanted to, inquire about a certain piece. And I said, yes, happy to, let's talk. And he said, no, I want to speak to the owner. And I said, yes, I am the owner. This gentleman could not move past it. Like, he was like, wow, okay, I didn't expect there to be a woman on the other side. Then I said, yes, no, absolutely. We've been running this for that. He couldn't move past it. And, he didn't call me back because of that. But I think if we continue to allow conversations like that to have a space in our world,
Yes.
we will never move past the need for having a man, a face of a man. And so I don't at all feed into that at all, because a big part of me, and I think for a long time I didn't notice that there were silent signs, because I don't come from a background like that. Guys, I'm a firstborn daughter. Please. Like, I was never raised like that. I was the man, the boy, and the girl. Are you joking? As a firstborn daughter, you're not often in a gender space.
True.
My dad, I was the son and the girl.
Yes.
To my mom as well.
Yes.
So to be in spaces where that's a thing, I'm just like, no. I was never raised like this. I never went to schools like this. Even in my corporate background, I don't have this. So I can never allow for there to be the face behind it being a man. It's just not something I
I
can
really
curious.
like that.
I'm curious. Would you let a man look after your kid? Like, as in a nanny? A manny? Like, be honest. Picture your kid, and then picture a man, a manny. A black one.
Interestingly, actually, I've had a lot of friends of mine who have had like the house helper being a man.
Honest answer. Your answer.
I think only because of just I think it's a different space, but only because of the potential of bad things happening. And I don't want to go down that road. But in my space, it's manufacturing. But the minute you bring in a child and an adult, I do think that the context is slightly different.
Not necessarily.
I feel I just,
To be
I
honest,
hear
Did
the prejudice, but
you know
I
that in
see-
Congo that's normal?
I know, yes. I
Very
have a lot of
normal.
friends
Mannies
I
are
have a lot of
everywhere.
friends who
No, I see the trap you're setting up for us.
I'm not setting a trap.
And I
guys.
feel like it's
why
the
do
concepts are
you have to?
different.
Here's the thing: it's not called a trap. It's called wide broadening the conversation.
yeah, absolutely.
Because sometimes you do need to look at it from different perspectives. My
Yeah.
point in asking the question was to build up to this.
100%.
There's nothing wrong with some spaces being dominated by a particular gender. And the thing is, if it is dominated by a particular gender, you're entering that market will be full of challenges. And then you need to play the Game of Thrones in order to penetrate that market. Spaces that have women generally are not very welcoming when I don't know how to explain it, but here's basically my point. There are spaces that are dominated by women, right? For example, if you are a male secretary or male PA, there are certain looks you get when someone steps into an office. You can see it, the way you're spoken to, the way that I didn't expect there to be a man sitting here at reception. More often than not, if you walk into a building, regardless of how prestigious it may be, you're not thinking about it, but you're expecting to find a female receptionist, right? Because that's who dominates the industry. What I'm trying to broaden it into is this. There's the aspect of the spaces that men dominate that are quite offensive for women because men dominate them. Then there's the aspect of the conversation where some spaces are just gender dominant. right? And there's a part of it that is okay. It's okay that it's that way. It's not to say because it's that way, when you come into the market, you're going to be forced to play a Game of Thrones. And by Game of Thrones, what I mean is what you were talking about. Putting your dad as the face of, or as the face, the man face. I like that term, by the way, as opposed to the black face in the company.
Yes.
I like that term. Putting your dad is you playing the Game of Thrones, because at the end of the day, you're understanding that there's a bigger vision here, right? My debate is not, even though there is a bigger battle that you're fighting where you want to be a what do you call it? A citizen, a welcomed citizen of that industry.
But then, given that's the question, then how do we then become welcome citizens of the industry when we continue to have the dad face?
Absolutely.
You know, how do we get to a place where we are owning the space and we're part of the space if we continuously have the dad faces and
give
we
into
continuously
it,
play the Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
So the answer to your question is it's two sides of this. There are two sides to this coin. I'm not trying to say you should stop trying to enforce or to make the broad, the bold statement that I'm a woman and I'm here, get used to it. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm introducing, I'm broadening the conversation to say, guys, there is the aspect of the conversation we should also have that there are gender-dominated spaces, and it's okay that they're gender. There are specific reasons as to, I mean, logically, if you think about it, men are physically stronger than women. So obviously where they would dominate is in spaces like war, like construction. Now times have changed. There's machinery that a woman can just press like this. Women do lumber, women, you know, times have changed. Therefore now we're beginning with introducing not just the idea, but getting the people within those spaces, the dominant ones, to be comfortable with the fact that now women have come into the space. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's in what I'm introducing with the I genuinely was not trapping you. I was introducing an aspect of the conversation that is to say, guys, let's also acknowledge that there are many spaces that are dominated by women, that if a man came and said they want to do that job, you yourself would find it weird. So now then it brings about with what should that man do, right? Should he now say, I'm a man and I'm here. I'm here to look after your daughter. Sure, my voice is high pitched. You thought I was a woman, but I'm here. Yeah, what do you do? Huh? Are you going to judge me? Are you going to be sexist and not let me look after your daughter or your son?
Yeah, I hear you.
Right?
That's a very interesting dynamic.
I'm not
dynamics.
at
And
all
like a
trying
women's
to
month.
invalidate anything you guys have said. I'm just saying, right?
Yeah.
There are spaces where we're okay with women
Yeah, I
dominating.
agree.
No one challenges them. But when men are dominating a space, it's a challenge. We must dominate. And I'm all for women coming into those
specifically with the
spaces.
example that you're speaking. I like the example you're using, Giv, because we've seen so many videos of like these female nannies abusing children. But now I'm still that person. Ntati. I don't tlhokomela ngwanaka. Wa ngwanana. Jwang. It's a difficult one.
And I think it's only because of the potential door that you could be opening for a bad experience. But I actually think there are many cases where it happens, where you have male au pairs. You know, it happens.
Not here. Oh, the fact that you're saying male au pair, and I've never used that term in South Africa. Let's be honest about our context, guys. Yeah, sure. If you're going into other countries, that maybe. Nakona Futi, I'm speaking of Congo because they have a very unique situation. I also wouldn't allow a man to look after my daughter. You could have asked me the very same question, just to show you that I'm not trapping you, right?
No, I wanted to hear where you were going, and I think it's a very valid point.
Yes. Just to expand the conversation to how do we feel about those spaces where women are dominant and no one is necessarily challenging them. I mean, guys, I thought about this, right? I was working at a hair salon, doing digital marketing for a friend of mine. And the one thing I literally looked at people doing hair and I realized, Guti, that's a skill that can make you money in the rainiest of seasons. You get what I mean? And I started appreciating it in that way.
Yeah.
You get what? And then I started asking myself, obviously doing hair, men can it's much easier for men to dominate that space. In fact, I've heard some women actually prefer the hand of a man as opposed to the hand of a woman. But then there's other things that men in those spaces, other challenges that they face, right? What are people in the community, in the society saying about them busy doing women's hair? I mean, even being in that space as a man, being surrounded by women, there's something that it challenges you in a different way, right? So it brings about the question of, are we willing to have the broad conversation about the other side of the coin, as I introduced earlier?
Hi, give women's man the money. But I hear you. You know, we do try to keep a very balanced conversation. And so there are spaces, you know, if you had asked me before your example, a woman dominated, I couldn't have really thought of one. So that was
Oh, there are many.
Nursing is one of them.
Very big.
Yeah, there are many. There are many. Even in terms of certain spaces within media where the media houses or media companies know that only a woman can sell these products. Like in promotion work, there's a lot of young girls, a lot of young, good-looking women.
But I'll say
that
voiceovers is a male-dominated industry.
Oh yeah, I wasn't talking voiceover. Voiceovers,
Which is very
absolutely
interesting, right?
You're absolutely right.
Lux, the adverts are Lux hadingata. But you know, very hard sale type male voice.
But do you find that that's more product specific?
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
The soft,
vehicle sales, you know, that kind of like typically male.
Which is also wrong.
I
though.
agree.
We should be at a place where a woman can sell you a 4x4.
100%.
No, but guys,
I
don't think it's wrong. Hey, I think. Look, I'm not speaking to everything we've been discussing. I'm speaking specifically to what you're saying right now.
Yeah.
I think we need to come to terms with the fact that it depends on who you're selling to, right? It really depends.
Yeah.
Like marketing companies tend to be generally good about using a voice that speaks to the audience they're trying to reach. So who is interested in a 4x4? Yes, there are women who are, but they are a minority.
Yeah.
I just thought of that advert. Remember when Vodacom was really trying to appeal to a lower LSM? Can you believe it? You can talk for free on weekends. Remember they totally switched up the. It went from like you can get your minutes on to like can you believe it? You know. Yeah.
So you think I talk like that?
Honestly, is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah. It's slightly from the back. Yeah.
And I think that's actually interesting because even in the manufacturing space, when I look at my insights on Instagram, if we've like promoted something, more people who are looking at our stuff is actually women. So whether I'm in the manufacturing space or not, I'm still clearly appealing more to women.
People who extend homes are women.
Yeah, fair enough.
Especially in the townships.
Absolutely.
It's women that are extending homes.
I can also imagine that a lot of your clients are more women. Am I right?
Yeah. So in the cases where we do have gents, it's like the guy who is slightly more established in his career and is just tired of winging it.
Yeah, having a bachelor
and so
pad.
even when you go there, you get what I mean? He did his best.
Yes.
And so you appeal to the guy who's still maybe a bachelor and just like, I'm in a different phase of my life. My career is doing pretty well now. But now I need to have a space that kind of mirrors that. So please, can you help me? Because I don't have anybody else to help me. And so that's always an interesting dynamic because they are very like, you just do whatever you need to do. Whereas with the ladies, a lot more in it, which is good.
Can we talk about some of your successes, friend, or like points in your career where you're like, I am doing it?
Yeah.
You know, because we've spoken about the challenges, we've spoken about, you know, some of the dips. But where are some of the moments where like, because for me, with regards to you, it was Decorex.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was Decorex, and it wasn't because I didn't know about Decorex.
Yeah.
I knew it through you.
Yeah.
So you know that thing that you know this thing because of this person, and now you're seeing this person achieve this thing.
Yeah.
You know, because every time I saw things around Decorex, it was always, hey, Bitako's thing. type of thing. And now to see you have stand there, it was such a like, oh my gosh, she's doing it, you know. So what are some of the moments where you were like, whether it was a big client or where you're like, I'm doing this, I'm winning?
Yeah, no, definitely. So I think before I went into manufacturing, I think the one was doing a project with like one of the largest can manufacturers in Joburg. And they were coming into the South African space. But at the time, I did not have the capacity to take on such a big project. So I decided to partner with another company, Head Interiors. And so I definitely played on my business skills there because I said to them, I have a project. I want to learn from you. Take the project, let's do it together. I get a percentage, basically referral.
Yes.
And I get to sit on every single thing that you do.
Yes.
Like, I want to see how your processes run. I want to see how you do this from beginning to end. Like, I literally want to be part of all of that.
Yes.
And I think for me, that was like a very big point because I moved away from I can do it on my own to there is a value in learning from a bigger and more established organization. So there was power in realizing that there's some skills that I could learn. And I think that was like, I had the projects and it wasn't a small one, but the fact that they took me seriously because of that, I think was also good. Decorex, absolutely.
I really like that, friend. You're teaching us something there because that's a business skill.
Yes,
So,
yes.
it doesn't necessarily have to be you, but you can still gain a lot more than just being, 5% commission.
Absolutely.
To be fully invested in the whole process. And who knows what connections you made in the meantime.
Exactly.
The people that you got to sit in rooms with that you could call on next time.
For me, the value was more long-term. It was, the money is the money, right? It'll come and it'll even finish. But the lessons that you learn from these people who have been in the game for long, it's something that money can't always buy. And so the fact that they had this project, at least it was an in. And I wanted to do work with these guys for so long and I just didn't know what can I leverage. And this was the perfect in. Only to unlock so much more than this money that the project was going to give me.
Yes.
And so I think that was like a very pivotal part in the way I do business as a woman and as a person in general, that it doesn't always have to be your face on the thing. It can be somebody else, but you can learn from them in a different way and be okay with learning from people and not always chasing the money,
You're the second interior designer that we've had on. What is the name of that interior designer?
I'll find it.
But she also came dressed very nicely. And I feel like interior designers have a certain aesthetic. Right? And so now we're speaking to the young person who says, I've got the craving. I also like the interior space. Do I have to look the way? Like, I feel like you guys are always stylish. You guys take, dressing and aesthetics seriously all the time. Is that really how the industry is, or it's your thing?
I think it's both. But unfortunately, I wouldn't buy from someone who...
Honestly, I was thinking the same.
Are you telling me?
To look
yes.
A like, and to be honest, you don't... I find that you don't necessarily have to look stylish in a particular sense, but you have to have some vibe to you. Like, for example, I can't remember her name, and and she's such a huge fan of our channel. But she was in traditional way.
Yes,
right? There's always something of correct,
yes,
you're very classy. So it's not necessarily you have to be polished, blah, blah, blah. But there's just something unique about interior designers.
You basically, guys, somebody's home, it's a big responsibility.
Absolutely.
You come to the space every day, rain no shine. And you're also now saying to me, here's money. I'm giving you free rain. And then, there's no way. People need to believe, and unfortunately it really is a face value thing.
Yes.
If you don't look the part, you won't unlock the door. People it's a bias.
That's true. But you're right. How are you going to trust somebody to design your home when they can't design the way they look? It sounds funny, but it is the truth.
I actually feel like it comes natural for them, like to style themselves nicely. Because I style spaces.
Yes.
Fashion and interior are very closely linked, I would say. So it's easy for people to easily dabble in the two.
Speaking now closer also to aesthetics, speaking towards, just being able to articulate yourself and being well-spoken, do you think that's helped you? Do you think if you were, my name, it's... I'm serious. Noelle, yes, that's the name. Noelle, thank you so much for finding that. Yes, thank you so much, Mom Noelle. So do you think that's also helped you, in your industry? Because we're speaking of biases.
100%.
And I can never take away from my ability to talk has definitely helped me. I sometimes look at brilliant people. I'm like, damn, I wish they could talk better. And the ability to speak is just
It's such
so
a sad
it's really sad.
reality.
Yeah,
I don't want to lie.
it is.
It's a terrible reality, but I won't lie that it really has helped me. And in what way? I was asked the other day, but by like a marketing guy, because he asked me to give me context on on my business. And then one of the questions in there was, who are the demographics that you mostly serve? And my thing has always been, my business was always a faceless business before, because I wanted the product to be what sells and not who I am. And so for a very long time, that was my thing. And then I decided to show my face a little bit more. But it's always been, you should reach all demographics. It should not be about the fact that you're a black girl and you only sell to black people. That's not a real thing for me.
Yeah.
You should be able to sell to Indian, colored, white, across the board. And we have a white client base. It's not as big as our black client base, but we have one.
Yes.
And for me, I'm happy about that, because it means our product transcends race. Our product transcends even gender. Like, our product is our product and it sells itself. And if it's good, it's good. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And it should resonate with anybody, regardless of who's selling it. And so that's when I realized, even sometimes interacting with them, there is a certain wall that you break that, is as a result of how you speak or how you can carry yourself or what you bring to the table just from a mental capacity. It's quite sad, but it is a reality. And I've found myself hanging around Cramerville and being able to really relate even with white clients because of that. And unfortunately, it does result in a sale, and it is what it is.
No, I totally hear this, and you can sometimes feel like apologetic, but these are the truths that we want to share, that these are the things that have boosted. You spoke about it in another episode, Bonga, being articulate. Yeah. I can't remember which episode it was. But you spoke about the strength in being articulate,
It's really something that can break doors.
Yes, like I said, you come across like brilliant people, but the talk, the speak is not there, and it's just unfortunate. But that is there's an episode on Boston Legal where Danny Crane is hiring a legal intern. What do they call them?
Paralegal.
Associate lawyer. I think they call it something like that. Associate lawyer, and then he says, "Oh, yeah, you don't sound black, so we can take you." And the whole episode is around how problematic that statement is. But ultimately, I don't know if you guys follow Boston Legal, but Boston Legal always has this big closing statement. They'll do like a whole very controversial episode. And in the closing statement, one of the other lawyers then is addressing the media because, it was a big frenzy. And then she says, unfortunately, we all like our blacks with a bit of cream and sugar, the way we like our coffee with a bit of cream and sugar.
Interesting.
And she says, that's not our firm problem. That's a society problem.
And it's a bias.
That's a bias that we have in society. So, and I remember watching that episode in undergrad and just really resonating and understanding really. And it's not just in America; it's here as well. These biases are here and they're real.
That's so crazy. Because in my first year of working, when I interviewed for this job as in strategy consulting, the guy who was interviewing me was a Portuguese man who had a very strong accent, very strong. He was a partner. So that's like in consulting, the highest level. Yes. A very strong accent, guys. Portuguese, I'm now speaking English there. And you know what he said to me? He said, "You're very well spoken. What schools did you go to?"
Imagine.
And I looked at this man like, not you. Not you. With that accent. But even in his Portuguese accent, he still considered himself having a leg up over a girl with, let's say, a black accent.
Yes.
For him, accent Europe is better than accent Basotho.
And you know what? That's the reality. A thick European accent is better than a thick black.
Yeah. You get what I mean?
You even see it like with lecturers, an African woman comes there and says, "Good morning, students." The students are already like, "Hey, but then comes, "Good morning, students."
You get what I mean?
I'm professor. There's that bias. Yes, all the way from Paris. You know,
that's how special we are.
I mean,
I thought.
Oh my word. I hope, I always say I'm excited to see a generation or two from now.
Yeah.
And what the struggles are of then. But we're documenting now, these are the struggles of this generation.
100%.
These
And
are
I
the
think
struggles
we're
of this
still a
generation.
bit far from what Given posed for us
Yeah,
earlier.
yeah.
I think we're still a few decades away from being able to accept that
Yes,
as part of our society.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I
Thank you
really
for sharing your
appreciate
story.
it.
I think the last question I'm going to ask before we sign out is, young girl listening right now wants to step into a male-dominated space, be it manufacturing, be it making cars, whatever it is, and they're listening to you. And, what's your word of advice to them?
I think it's definitely to learn your craft. If that is somewhere you want to be, and go in there, with something to offer and with an opinion because you have decided to take the time to teach yourself. I think for me, always go in there with some form of point of view, teach yourself, be really lean on that. And then just know that you can do it. Just like any other man, you can probably do it even better sometimes. So leaning on your craft and your understanding gives you that leg up, I think. And it should never be taken for granted. Knowing what you're talking about. Yeah.
Know what you're talking about. They say anything you can do, I can do bleeding. Thank you so much, Biseko.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
That was today's episode of The Conversation Capital. Continue to like, share, and subscribe. For now, though, goodbye and God bless.